Okay, this week's course is Hampshire Greens, which is just north of Silver Spring, just north of Route 198 out of Laurel and the intersection of Route 650 in Silver Spring. Maybe a good hour drive from downtown, straight up New Hampshire Avenue. It's one of these Montgomery County courses, a classic neighborhood woods course. There is no question that there is a neighborhood there, and there is no question that you will be playing between, basically in lanes, the traditional kind of lanes course with a lot of trees and woods and some waste on the sides of the fairways, but at a respectable distance. I thought this was a very nice golf course. And I would say if you took away the houses and you took away the roads that went around the course, pretty much the whole course is surrounded by substantial road presence, car presence, except for maybe one half. You either have a fair number of houses or you have a fair amount of road noise. In some cases, pretty substantial. I'm not going into order, but there are, I think it's 200, yes, Route 200 along one side of the course. And there's maybe Route 650 or something similar to that, and certainly maybe a side road off of 650 that runs along two sides of the course. So this is not one of those courses that I would recommend if you want to get out and away and just play golf in sort of isolation. It's definitely a course that you play if you don't mind playing a course that has the large estate kind of houses in a fair density and not too far, not too near from the course. Certainly there will be houses in view and backyards and porches and stuff in view from most of the course. And even in some parts of the course, you do have to be careful not to put balls up on backyards or decks. But for the most part, the houses are far enough away from the fairway or away from the tees that it's not a big concern to worry about putting balls up on someone's deck or in the side of their house. But not completely. There definitely were a few places where I did have to worry about that. But for the most part, no. It was reserved enough where the houses and so forth were there, but there was enough waste, enough ground between the fairway and, let's say, someone's backyard or the back of their house where it wasn't really a concern. Having said that, there was a fair amount of OB on this course. It does have a good amount of OB on both sides, both to the inside of the course and to the outside, because the backyards of some of these houses do come within maybe 20, 30, 40 yards of the fairway. So it's not something you don't have to worry about. It's a lot like a lot of courses in Columbia, I would say, certainly, where you do have houses that are easily reachable. They're reachable if you really, really wreck a shot and really spin it badly or hit it 45 degrees offline. You can easily put it in someone's backyard. And there's OB in a lot of places to keep the players well penalized for doing that. But it's not obvious. In a lot of places, a lot of the fairways have mounds on the side, your traditional link style mounds on the side. And if you go over the side of those mounds, you will see that there's a line of OB, maybe a line of waste, maybe a line of woods and some trees, and it's thick enough and it's not cleaned out. There's definitely ivy and stuff back there where you do have to worry about losing your ball if you hit back there, but you're certainly going to be having to play out of some decent woods. And it's not a gimme course where if you put a ball there's no adjacent fairway on the other side of the trees. It's not cleaned out under the trees and stuff. So it's an honest golf course in that regard, much like Forest Greens or let's say General's Ridge or something like that. But it doesn't have the extreme verticality of a course like General's Ridge, nowhere near that. And I would say it's even pretty mild compared to Forest Greens in terms of verticality. But it does have enough verticality to make it a decent challenge. The course is definitely not forgiving in a sense that you can't put balls all over the course and go play them. You do have to be somewhere near the fairway. So I would say it's a lot like Twin Lakes a lot like but either course at Twin Lakes really. Although I think this is a better course than Twin Lakes. I think it has, almost every green is elevated. Some of the greens are elevated somewhere between 5 feet, 6 feet to 15, 20, 30 feet even. And a lot of the tee shots have a good sort of bend to them, and a crescent left or a crescent right, if not an outright dogleg. There were a couple of doglegs, but not too many. And even the par threes had a good distance from the back tees. They were maybe 220 from the back tees. But the other thing it had was, in addition to the elevated greens, it had a lot of sand near the green. So you were playing up to an elevated green. Almost always it would be a nice big deep pot bunker or guardian bunker, either front or left or right or something, and a steep slip off to the right or left. And even where there was a lake, there was a lake that you had to cross from the back 2 tees, say, and the lakes were reachable, crossable, certainly, but not trivial. I think it was a good, honest golf course. I would say it was a really nice golf course. I would definitely like to play this course again. And the only thing I really can say bad about it was that it had so much road noise on some of the sides, and there were enough houses to be, you just weren't going to escape the fact that almost every time you took a shot, there was some house or something, sort of looming over it like a grandstand or something. It wasn't that they were right there, but it wasn't that they weren't there either. So if you take all that into consideration and you don't mind playing that, it's a fair course. I thought it was a really nice challenge of golf. The sand was in very good condition. You could definitely tell that when they have this course groomed up for the season, it will be in good condition. The sand was one of the better courses that I've seen lately in terms of the sand. No rocks, no pebbles, no nothing, no mud. Real honest to goodness sand, and light kind of crystalline sand also. The greens were good, solid, firm, fast, even after the wetness of the weekend. And when I played it on Friday that day and it was just windy, they had dried out enough that there was very little, if any, water on the greens. And I had a good time putting, had a good time hitting shots. It was good challenging shots. It was in no way a pushover kind of course. It was not super long. I say it was about 6,800, maybe 6,900 yards from the back tees. And there were a number of shots that were good carries off the back tees. No question, it was a decent course. I would say it's probably a notch, maybe a notch or two below Potomac Shores, but still better than Oak Creek. Certainly not as tight as Oak Creek, certainly not too tight, but not too loose. It was a good, solid round of golf. I can certainly recommend this course. I was able to get out and play it on a Friday for $35 with a cart, so not too expensive, at least on a Friday. And I like the carts. The carts also, had a very kind of muted sound, but they were gas carts. It was nice. Gas carts always nice. You didn't have to worry about the cart, stopping on you in the middle of the round. And this was a nice place, nice clubhouse, very nice inside, recently done, wood and white paint and stuff, and nice big bar and everything. And it was just a nice place. The only thing I would want to change about it were the surrounding conditions. If you took this course and put it out in the middle of nowhere, it would be a really nice course. But as it is, given the road noise and so forth, it is a decent course and certainly worth the round, certainly worth the money to play. I can certainly recommend it. So I would say it is a upper level course, but not a great course. It is a long enough course, but not necessarily a wide open hitter's course. It has a good balance between width and length, some nice, interesting shots. There was one or two shots where, you just had to have, I think overall the whole course was solid. Let's put it that way. Not a great course, not an outstanding course, not the kind of course that's going to have people racing to play it from Arkansas or whatever, coming 5 states to play this course. It wasn't like that. It wasn't that good, but it was certainly a respectable course. No question, one of the better courses that I played in the DC area. Now, if I wanted to say a couple of words of warning, let's say I think that there is at least one hole, the 6th hole, I believe, where you're teeing off and it's sort of a blind shot over a crest. You absolutely do not want to go right over there because once you get off the fairway by about 20 yards and go, there's a little bit of rough over there on the right side. There's nothing but a sort of 20 or 30 foot drop into a line of trees, and then behind that line of trees, there's a series of houses. But the problem is you can only see the tops of the trees on the right side, and you really don't want to go anywhere near that right side on top of there. The fifth hole, the hole before that, which was the hole where the lake is, you have a dogleg right sort of. You play over the lake and then you take off down to the right, and that's a nice hole. I can tell you this, I drove it twice. I hit 2 balls on it. The first ball I hit, I thought it was a little bit weak and maybe a little bit of a spin, and even with the wind behind me, the wind was blowing down the fairway, I still put that ball about 50 yards short of the far corner. The second ball I hit, which was, I just absolutely nice drive, beautiful drive, hit it into the fairway, it bounced down the fairway and rolled down to the fairway, and it stopped, and it still stopped about where my first ball stopped, but it stopped in the fairway, and towards the hole, it was the same distance. It was still about 50 yards short of the corner. So I don't think that a lot of people are going to be driving that lake if you try to cut that corner. And right on that corner, there's someone's backyard, and it's marked. There's an OB post almost right there in the corner. You can see several posts right there, and a house off to the right. You really should respect that corner and play out into the middle of the lake and play over to the right. There's very little chance that you're going to carry that lake if you're playing from the back tees. Maybe from the white tees you can carry it, but that's only going to take off maybe 30 or 40 yards. Absolutely, that's not a shot to play with. Other than that, there was one other hole, I think it's 17, where you're playing in the evening or the afternoon, you'll be playing almost straight into the sun. They have a big lake off to the left and some houses up on like a little tier onto the right, and you're playing along a fairway that curves along, it's par 5, it curves along the backside of those houses, and you have a really narrow landing area between that lake and the fences of the back of the houses, and that's where the 200 passes on the left side. When I played it, the lake was dry. They had dried it out. They've done that also on 18. They dried it out. And I can only imagine how much fun that would be when it's filled, which I suspect it will be shortly. But it's a big, big lake off to the left. And the landing area on the fairway at number 17 is not big at all. Number 18 is much more forgiving. You do have that same kind of lake, but it's to the inside of the fairway, so it's just, you sort of have to cross it. And I got a nice drive on that one from the back tees, and I barely got it across that lake where the cart path comes out and then turns right. So again, 3 carries at least I can think of on this course where you need at least a 225 carry from the tees, at least the back tees, to get across where there's going to be a lake. And one where you have a very narrow slot to hit into, okay, into that slot, or it's either going to be in the lake or up in the backyards of someone's house. It's like the holes either have a fair amount of slope, off to the right or left, away from the greens, or you're playing over a decent amount of carry, and then you've got to play a fairly long shot, like par 4, 425-yard par 4 from the back tees or something. And it's not short, but it's not impossibly long. And I can only say this, it's a good course. It's a very good course. I wouldn't say it's a great course, and I'm trying to say how to put this into a small enough phrase. It's a good golf course, but not a great course, okay? Not something which is going to be legendary or something, not at all, but it is a good golf course, certainly a solid challenge of golf. Yeah, if you focus on the course, it's interesting enough, it's challenging enough, but you have to focus on the course and ignore the surroundings, because the surroundings are borderline distraction. They're borderline too distracting, but if you can ignore them, it is a good, solid, interesting challenge of golf. Just not phenomenal. and it doesn't have any of the ridiculously high tee shots or ridiculously vertical stuff that you see on a fair number of courses. It isn't overwhelming, but it is definitely strong. So absolutely a decent challenge of golf. I would say better than a lot of courses in the area, no question, but not the best course, okay? Not the best course, not something outstanding, but really good for what it is. That is Hampshire Greens in Silver Spring. I think it's Upper Silver Spring. It's either Silver Spring or Olney, Maryland.